Hello, welcome back, bienvenido. Buenos dias. Thank you so much for joining us again. I know we're running just a few minutes behind schedule, but it's more than worth it for the great speakers and content that we have with you. Hope you've enjoyed the networking break. There'll be plenty more to come, plenty more opportunities to connect with your fellow experts here. But we have in the next session block, I think, a very special set of speakers and ultimately panels that will really give us some great insight between opportunities for nearshoring and localization, global strategic views of supply chain and logistics, and then zeroing in on some very specific innovations and developments here in Mexico. But before we get into all of that, it's really my pleasure to welcome our next keynote speaker. As mentioned, nearshoring is one of the very, very important topics of this session. To achieve and to enable nearshoring requires close coordination both with the federal government and the policies laid out, as well as, of course, with regional and state governments here in Mexico, to make sure that the right infrastructure is in place, whether that's for transport, energy, talent, logistics, of course, supply base. And we're really pleased that we are able to bring a key expert and leader in the state of Mexico, which is, of course, a very important, very close to here, and also a very, very important supply, production, and export base for all of Mexico. We're going to have a short presentation, and then we'll move into some of our other panels as well. So our speaker has held key roles in government advisory, including as president of a business coordinating council of the state of Mexico and other advisory roles in key associations in the state and widely. She's previously served as undersecretary of industrial development and the president of the Toluca Valley National Chamber of Commerce, and a founding member of the Citizen Observatory of the Judiciary of the State of Mexico. But now she has a very important role as the Secretary of Economic Development for the State of Mexico. Please join me in welcoming Laura Gonzalez. Bienvenida. Muchas gracias.
Muy buen día.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah, perfect. Good morning for every one of you. I'm very honored to be here. I would like to thank the opportunity that you are giving me of Automotive Logistic and Supply Chain in Mexico, the 10th edition. I would like to thank Christopher Ludwin, the host and director, and to Richard Logan, the senior manager of Automotive Logistics. I want to talk to you about the state of Mexico. Talk to you about this state that has the same name of our country. Is the most populated state in Mexico, almost 18 million people. Is a federative entity that surrounds or that is neighbor to Mexico City. We are practically one state. We have, along with Mexico City, 26 million people, and we have the biggest consumption market on the country. I know that all of the assistants and that everyone in the audience that are here with us have a presence, a communication, a relationship in markets in terms of supply chains with companies on the state of Mexico or with projects that exist since many years ago in the state of Mexico. Historically, the state of Mexico is an industrial state where the center region of the country placed decades ago. Well, a lot of the parts from the Mexican industry and a lot of the chemical pharmaceutical industry, from the food industry, from the textile industry. Today, we have a really important participation in the terms of the industry sector in Mexico, but it has also become one of the most representative states in terms of infrastructure, in terms of housing, in terms of services. Is the most logistic state in Mexico. This is due to its geographical location that we already will go into it in the presentation, because we have two airports and we're really close to the International Airport of Mexico City, to the roads, to the railways, and to many other things that make the state of Mexico a place, a natural place for investments, for convenience in many ways. Now I would like to talk to you of the automotive industry on the state of Mexico. Okay. Well, this is what I told you. Where are we? What is the state of Mexico? We're surrounded by 8 federal entities. We hug Mexico City, as you can see. A good part of the population that comes to work to Mexico City lives in the state of Mexico. The state of Mexico has more population than Mexico City. And we have many spaces. We have 125 municipalities. We have rural regions. We have urban regions. We have industrial regions. We have logistic regions, commercial regions, service regions, etc. The economic indicators of the state of Mexico, which are really important. Firstly, we're the first place nationally on the consumption market, 17.7 million people. Is the second biggest Mexican economy. It puts 9.3% of the GDP of the country, only after Mexico City, precisely because here on the Mexico City is where the corporations are placed and the financial centers of the companies. But it's the entity that has the biggest number of economic entities, 7,300 units. It's the first place in industrial parks and industrial themes in the state of Mexico. There hasn't been any other entity, any other state that has more industrial parks than the state of Mexico. We have the first place on occupied population, 8.2 million people that work on the state of Mexico, or that they are busy or occupied in a project, in a company, or being entrepreneurs. We have first place on formal jobs since the administration of the actual government of Delfina Golbez Alvarez. The main commercial partners are United States, China, Germany, and Canada. In terms of foreign investments, since the beginning of the actual government, not the federal government, the government of the state of Mexico that started a year and 2 months ago, of $7,423 million, were on top 5 in terms of foreign investments of the country. I told you that there was something that makes us different. It's the only state with 2 international airports, the airport of Toluca, the international airport Felipe Alvarez, the well-known AIFA, that it's in the state of Mexico. Pretty close to us, we have Mexico City's airport. We have 16,000 kilometers on roadways. We have 733 railway roads, kilometers. We have 3 customs, the customs of the 2 airports, the AIFA, the Toluca airport, and from Puerto Mexico, placed in Toluca. A lot is said about what happens with services in this country. Is there any energy disponibility? Do we have any water ability? Are there any spaces to invest on? The state of Mexico has those spaces. Of course we have them. We have a mapping that is specifically made of where we have the most availability of services. Now we will talk about energy. Maybe today we're here with an expert that will stay here in case of any doubts specifically for projects, but please keep in mind that in the state of Mexico, precisely due to the geographical location, because it's found on the most populated state on the country, it has a necessary infrastructure to give energy to any project. It's very important that you know that there are certain projects that require an additional investment in order to connect to the electrical network, but the supply network is available on the state of Mexico. You don't need to do more things except from certain regions where we have to achieve to connect to this network. But the network exists, this grid exists, and the capacities are there. We have 75 generator plants. In terms of IFA, that is creating a ton of expectation. We have 9 generator plants. We have 77 substations of distribution in the whole entity, 14 power substations on the entity, and practically we have the capacity of installed energy for projects of nearshoring and for any type of project, if it's related or not. Right now we're promoting the nearshoring, but you can do any other thing. In terms of gas pipelines, we have a wide network where you can access natural gas on the state. Practically in any industrial region from the state of Mexico, there are gas pipelines for you to connect to. This image here shows us something that is very important. The location of the state of Mexico makes us differentiate from others, because in terms of costs, it's not the same to move mercancies, goods or cargoes or finished products from one border region, from Mexico, from the north or from the south or from the occident or from any other part to the front, to the borders or to the ports. In terms of distances and costs, the state of Mexico has the best advantages due to the fact that it's located in the middle, and also the fact that the international airport Felipe Ángeles is the biggest cargo airport in the country, allows us to have an advantage. This is information that if we go deeper into it, it will take a lot of time. But what I want to tell you about this information is that in terms of costs and tariffs, in terms of transmission, industrial electricity, it results that we are in quite competitive numbers. Down on the lower part, in the Felipe Ángeles zone, the tariff is 33% less than the average of all the divisions of the country. That is something very important because it implies saving in costs. It implies that in consumptions and in energy costs, there can be considerable savings on the state of Mexico. And now we will talk about on labor force subject. Besides that, the most common weather is the warm weather. And why do we say this? Because the costs of heating or conditioning air are way less in a state like the state of Mexico, where all year it's kind of warm. It's a good weather. We don't need to have a huge change on whether heat or cooling, which require a lot of energy costs. When we're talking about availability in terms of hydric resources, same thing happens. We have sources, we have water bodies. And I think there's not any part in the country where we can say that we have so much water in order to give to other entities or to just waste it. Reasonably, our projects are focused on keeping natural resources stable. We do have certain regions on the state of Mexico that have an availability and access to hydraulic resources. We are doing a quite specific and cautious process, so there's no waste. But this entity has not have a shortage of water. Our logistic ecosystem. Today, the state of Mexico is the one that has the biggest number of companies that are part of the whole chain in the logistic chamber. More than 2,700 companies that are part of this industry. Due to the fact that we have good railway infrastructure, roadway infrastructure, we are connected better than in any other part of the country to the borders and to the ports also. This industry, you can see on the slide that there are certain companies that are part of the state of Mexico. Almost any product that it requires consumption is present on the state of Mexico. As I told you, the number of industrial parks and industrial areas are a lot in the company. It creates more than 6,000 jobs. Another subject that differentiates the state of Mexico and that there is no other entity in Mexico that has it. We talked about 8.2 million people that are with a job. That's the labor force of the state of Mexico that is represented by a lot of states. We have more than 4 million students from the basic to graduate level. We have the biggest educational infrastructure of the country. We have 3,460 institutions of education that are for high school, bachelor, and university that are public and private. And we have 1.2 million students who are part of a superior education on the state of Mexico.
Basically, we have capacity to be able to train labor, specialized labor, and focused to companies, to full sectors, to projects that may arrive in terms of months. We can create technicians and professionals specialized in any topic. We have basically all the different branches of industry creating technicians and professionals in all the different regions of Mexico State. We can give some examples just in the automotive sector, specialized talent. For instance, people that are being trained or are coming out from engineering careers, manufacturing, construction, 15,000 people. In management and business, 11,000. In IT and communication, 18,900. In services, 5,700. So the total of people coming out per year in the sectors is 181,946 people. These are the people coming out from school, technician level, and professionals related to companies already installed in Mexico State. It's 51,197. So that was at the technician level. That they do not have a professional career, but they're specialized technicians. Now, at professional level, the total number of people coming out is 107,752, related to 51,000, give or take, 14,000 focused on engineering, manufacturing, and construction, 23,000 in management and business, math, statistics, and science, about 3,000. In IT, 6,500, give or take. All of these are numbers that we have gathered, that we have shown to you today, of the kind of talents and the capacity that we have to train people to focus them on the automotive sector and all the supply chain. The salaries average that are paid in the state of Mexico basically are one of the most competitive in the country. We cannot compare ourselves what happens in the south and the north side of Mexico, but at the end we usually compare ourselves closer to the north side of Mexico. We have this chart. What I highlighted in dark blue are the ones in the middle, are these regions where we have automotive industry in the state of Mexico, and we are way under states on the north of Mexico. Our commercial partners in terms of exports, that by 2023 we have $26,760 million, mostly the U.S. We also have China, Germany, Canada, Japan. In terms of imports, we have 37,000 million or 37 billions in 2023. The main partner was U.S., China, Germany, Canada, Japan, Brazil, among others. What is it that we export, given the presence in the automotive industry in the state of Mexico? 47.6% is transportation, and the rest is machinery and equipment, chemical supplies, and from the sectors, food industry and other and textile. Imported products, 26% is from machinery and equipment, 13% of transportation equipment, among plastics, metals, and others that do supply the automotive sector. Our manufacturing industry, in terms of manufacturing industry, the state of Mexico is number one in Mexico about the number of economic units, of industries, companies. We have 4% of the manufacturing production at a national level. It represents 22% of the state economy. It creates 1.2 million of employments and 58% of investment, foreign investment directly to the state. The automotive industry, a number of economic units of this value chain of transportation equipment, in terms of manufacture, we're number one. In number of economic units, we have 9 plants manufacturing light and heavy and engine vehicles that represents 12.6 of the added state added value. This is the ecosystem of the automotive industry. When we add up the total amount of industries related to the automotive industry, not just manufacturing, but also marketing, vehicles, parts, and everything related, directly or indirectly linked to the automotive industry, we have 382,000 economic units. We have 9 assembling plants. We're talking about how much this provides at the state level. About automotive, like inside combustion engines, vehicles and vehicles. We have Ford in Cuautitlán Izcalli. We have Moldex in Lerma that manufacture for fleets. We have Stellantis since 1968 that they just made this reconversion in August of their plant of internal combustion engines to electric vehicles. The plant itself, they was manufacturing for many years internal combustion engines. As of today, they're producing now this vehicle, this electric van, this Jeep Wagoneer for the U.S. and Canada. We have USA in Jocotitlán. We have as trucks and buses, Daimler in Santiago Tangsteno, Icon in Huehuetoca, Volvo in Tultitlán, Mac in Tultitlán, Isuzu in Cuautitlán Izcalli. And we have two plants of engines and transmissions. We have General Motors that also has been there for a number of decades in the state of Mexico and hasn't stopped reinvesting in the state of Mexico and Detroit. We also have design centers. We have the largest design center, the largest design center and engineering from Ford, very recent, for just a few years, couple years, and corporate office in Ford in Naucalpan. We have design centers and engineering from Nissan, for instance, also in Toluca and others. We have over 150 branches of economy providers of the automotive industry. And what I was telling, all of these branches do add up a very important number of companies that do supply or market products of the automotive industry or sector. These are some of the vehicles or brands that are manufactured in the state of Mexico. We have it by map. We have the different models. It's the brands that I've been talking about, but the specific models in Stellantis, well, we're still talking about Jeep Compass because it was the last production of Jeep Compass, but well, right now they're just going to be manufacturing this new model, which is Jeep Wagoneer. And all others are the ones that are currently being manufactured as specific models in the state of Mexico. These research centers are the ones that I was mentioning before. Ford, we have a regional engineering center for General Motors, another one from Nissan. We have experimentation and innovation centers, testing circuits, advanced technology center. Most likely you are aware of the Pegaso Dynamic Center, where there's a lot of tests made. We also have this automotive cluster that joins Mexico City, the state of Hidalgo, and the state of Mexico. In terms of consumption, we have over 700,000 selling units and 9.4 million of vehicles that we put into the streets. What is it that Mexico state is doing for the last year now? We were mentioning about this mapping. Where is it that we're moving towards? The state of Mexico have very important consolidated sectors. We have chemical, pharmacy market, services, in diverse industry that we can see there, logistics, construction, real estate. Where is it that we're moving forward? Where is it that we're betting? What is it that we're going to promote the most? What is it that we'll be working together along with a new federal government? with plans and programs with the academy sector, ministry, and we go for electromobility. That's very important because of the capacity that Mexico State has to be able to place it. We go for semiconductors. We go for information technologies, communication, EI, and data centers. We're going to improve the presence of the electric and electronic sector. There's a lot of energy producing factors, alternative energies in the state of Mexico due to the conditions that are great to develop this kind of projects. And also, we are exploring the arrival or being able to promote into the state of Mexico for the aeronautical sector. These are the corridors that we have in the state of Mexico. We have agro-industrial, we have this other corridor for logistics, we have this industrial area, which are very well known, of the Toluca-Lerma corridor, of the Naucalpan, Tlalnepantla, Cuautitlán Izcalli, etc. It's coming, the major project of the AIFA project, that I do want to mention a little bit about this. The President, Claudia Sheinbaum, spoke since she was in campaign, and she has restated that there's a major project of development poles. One of them is already there since the previous administration of President López Obrador. The first one was designed and is ready in the south section of the country. Then one of the next ones about to start is the AIFA development pole. And this talks about the putting together the efforts in three states: Mexico City, the state of Mexico, and Hidalgo state. It's near three industrial complexes. We were thinking that we could host within this 10 industrial parks with tax incentives and federal special incentives. Let's not forget that this project started as a possibility to have free duty-free areas in the country. The concept is still the same. Regulations and rules are about to be aware of them by the federal government. We're considering this possibility of the spaces, of the land, the specification of the industrial parks, of all the infrastructure that we have, such that they will be functional. What is it going to be, the rules of the game, which sectors are going to be installed in there. It's not defined yet which sectors. They were mentioning a few of them, but tomorrow we will have this meeting with the Academy Ministry to define which are the priorities of the states, which capacity we do have to host which kind of projects in the state of Mexico. And in this area, with this the Felipe Ángeles airport that I wanted to show, some of them, it's 9 municipalities of this Felipe Ángeles corridor, 9 municipalities of Mexico State, and some more of Hidalgo and other regions in Mexico City. We have the largest space available. There's a number of companies already interested in buying land in there, regardless of the development poles projects. And well, it's a region that has all these characteristics that are convenient for companies because of the connectivity position, to have all these services, to have all this consumption center and all this labor available. The current subsidies that the Mexico State has are a few that we just triggered this fiscal year, the nearshoring support that is going to be focusing on the payroll tax, and some that will increase the number of employees or that start operations and that have a direct or indirect relation with this nearshoring phenomenon that will be allies to companies that will be taking advantage of this movement that we're experiencing here in Mexico. And it's 100% of this exemption of taxes that are paid and anywhere else in the states due to payroll, and ecological taxes that a number of states have 100% exempt for 12 months. We're analyzing some projects to see if we might increase this time for the next tax year, fiscal years. There's the 2025 tax year, in which we're trying to add municipal benefits as well. There's some taxes that are paid by to the municipalities, like land tax, water taxes, and we're talking with all the different regions in the state, in Mexico State, to add more benefits in the municipalities, and they're still analyzing this new fiscal package of the state of Mexico, that we can increment new subsidies that truly are different or greater than what we have in the rest of the country. These are not all of the subsidies. There's some projects. There's some projects that, given the size and due to the labor that they hire, in which we could become, like as an incentive, some investments as a state in terms of infrastructure, such that the project will actually happen. In terms of road infrastructures, access to services, access to connections, etc., all of that will be analyzed project by project, such that we can determine where the state of Mexico can bet and support. We will be walking along from searching from space, land, such that they will be the most accessible, the one that have the best conditions in terms of cost. We have all this catalog of land available in the state of Mexico. There are some regions that have some costs. Even we support with the bargaining, such that it will be the less expensive the purchase of a space or land. But I was saying, well, what the state is betting mostly, it's to infrastructure in that sense. And well, besides that, I remain truly at your service for any question that you might have. I have this team of people that are coming along with me that will be at your availability to be able to fine-tune in detail, such that we can arrange specific meetings, and that you can go to tour the industrial areas, that you can have detailed information, such that any topic that might happen in the state of Mexico, we will be taking care of it promptly. And I'm closing mentioning that in terms of permits, that is something that, well, sometimes people feel a little threatened. How long does it take permits in Mexico State to be able to open a particular company? Well, it depends on the project, the size, the capacity, and yet, historically, we are in the best moment in time. We go for these projects at the beginning, such that it will have, from the selection of the land with the best conditions, to avoid that something could make harder or could make times longer for the development of the project or the permits. The government, Delfina Gomez, is betting a lot to creating jobs in Mexico State, the state of Mexico. Currently, we're leaders. I was telling you, in the arrival of investments of jobs for 1 year that the management start, because of the closeness that we're having with companies, of how much we're betting, that you have quick responses and ideal to be able to settle there. But mostly, I would like to give you the idea that everything that I just mentioned, another state or another region, will be be able to have all of it at the same time. The state of Mexico has it and has a lot yet to be done. But mostly in the government of the state of Mexico, you have allies, partners, and you have the support of this government that will always walk along to the companies. Thank you very much.
Here, off stage. Thank you. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. We appreciate very much the insight. Obviously, you get a sense of what's happening in the state of Mexico. You get a sense of the opportunities there, and that is, of course, reverberated across. We are very short on time, so we won't be taking questions at this time so that we can move into the next sort of session. But as the Secretary mentioned, the team is here, right, to answer any questions. They're here, so I encourage you to engage further afterwards. But thank you very much for being with us. We appreciate it. So we're going to move into our next session. Now, we just had a very deep dive on nearshore.